As Zheng went through the familiar dreamy state, he carefully experienced this feeling. He felt like he sensed something every time he went through the process, but this feeling disappeared in an instant and left him with just a rough idea. When Zheng woke up, he was standing in a noisy lobby. People in military uniforms were walking everywhere. He stood in the center of the lobby. It was as though these people intentionally left the area empty. The first thing he did was looking at the floor. To his surprise, there were no newbies. The notification sounded in his mind. Team Southern Flame and Team Forest had already entered the Starship Troopers world. Killing a normal member awards 2,000 points and a rank C reward. Killing an unlocked member awards 7,000 points and a rank B reward. Deduct 1 point for each member from Team China killed. Plus, 1 point for killing a member of the opposing teams. The final score multiplied by 2,000 will be awarded as points to each remaining member. Zhen looked at the others after hearing it. The other 6 people obviously heard the notifications too. Kappa asked. How can there be 2 other teams? Zhen shook his head. I am not sure about this situation. The leader authority doesn't mention about a limit to the number of teams. Perhaps if the world permits it, God can pull all 10 teams into a movie world. Xian said calmly. Instead of these questions, we should discuss where the 2 teams could come from. Based on just their meanings, Southern Flame is highly likely around South Africa. But there are several possible locations for Team Forest. Based on land size and forest coverage, I think they are from Brazil. So Team Forest should be South America. Gondo said. Both locations aren't too developed. No wonder we are the strongest team. Xian glanced at him. This isn't how you should think. A country's strength is about the country. Can you say you are confident at fighting the locals in a forest? In a world with enhancements and becoming stronger non-stop, people from developed countries are not necessarily stronger. In fact, those who unlock the genetic constraint, or has the potential to unlock it, are the ones that can survive in this world. Xian looked at his watch. Zheng and the others followed and looked at theirs. Wiping the other teams in a team battle didn't mean they could be safe. The main mission didn't necessarily require them to kill the other teams. Sometimes, it might be an unrelated mission. Survive 20 days. Rewards 1 point for every 100 warrior bugs killed. Rewards 1 point for every 10 hopper bugs killed. Rewards 10 points for every plasma bug killed. Rewards 100 points for every tanker bug killed. Zheng read it out then thought for a moment. Why isn't there points for control bugs? Could it be? Everyone said with excitement at the same time. Bonus mission? Zheng nodded. That's definitely it. A bonus mission. It will be a pity if we don't complete such an obvious bonus mission. The question is, this is difficult sci-fi war film, why do we only have 7 people? Do God consider the difficulty to be low? Xian said. The difficulty can be low or high. Based on our environment, we should be in space right now, probably inside a starship. If we can coerce the pilot and staffs to drive the starship off then hide the coordinates of this ship, 20 days would pass by in the blink of an eye. Or we can just break a leg and spend our time in the starship in safety. There won't be a need to fight the arachnids with our lives. Remember, our current identity is troops of the mobile infantry. The others nodded. God would usually give them an identity based on where they appear. They might have to forge one on their own if they appeared in an empty warehouse, but since this was a crowded lobby, the situation was similar to Resident Evil. Zheng exhaled and said. The usual rule. We will choose whether to live through these 20 days in safety and take the 1,000 points, which will avoid the fight against the other 2 teams. Or enter the bug-filled planet and farm points in the battlefield. We might also have to fight the other teams that will either end in a huge sum of rewards or death. Let's vote. Kappa and Gondo were the first to reply. Kappa said. Of course, enter the planet. Gondo said in panic. Of course, break our own legs and stay. They looked each other in the eyes. Gondo carefully moved his eyes away and laughed like usual. Wang Xia immediately said. I think Xian is right that danger equals rewards. We are going to encounter dangers as long as we are still alive. Why not just take the challenge and grow stronger? I choose to enter. Lan nodded and giggled. I also choose to enter. There are no newbies to drag us back this time. We can focus on the battle. Plus, everyone is so stronger. There shouldn't be any problems. Zero nodded in agreement. He didn't even say a word. Xian said calmly. I think we should enter the planet. Since there are no newbies, this will be a battle between the elites. I think there's also the possibility of getting along with the other teams peacefully. Zheng, you remember what you told me about Team India's leader? When 2 teams encounter each other, they will inspect each other's powers. If the 2 teams are similar, then they will exchange information. If these 2 teams are similar in power, we might be able to exchange some rules on magic. Zheng shook his head slightly. Sometimes he just didn't know how to deal with Xian. Like when Xian found knowledge beyond his understanding, the enthusiasm that emerged was nothing like a genetically modified person without feelings. His fanaticism toward the rules on magic were almost pathological. If Xian wasn't staying conscious, he might have gone back to the mummy and continued his search. Zheng said. Okay, 6-1. We are going to the bug planet for a ride. I will assign our roles. Kappa is the gunner as usual. Based on the movie, bugs have strong close combat capabilities. They can tear a person apart as soon as they got close enough. Their numbers can be described as a sea of bugs. God also tend to increase the difficulty on top of the movie. So Kappa need to clear bugs in a large area. Kill as much as you can. They are all points. Zero's targets are the hoppers and the larger bugs. The Gauss sniper rifle is suitable against these large bugs. Wangxia is responsible for blasting the holes on the ground and large swarms of bugs. Lan keep the scan inside the ground below us and other teams that might close in on us. Xian and I are the only ones that can pilot the sky sticks. You will use the sky stick to support the others and protect land safety. Lastly, Gondo. Gondo interrupted in panic. Wait. Just break my leg and leave me in this starship. Ho ho. You can fight without any burden and don't have to protect a newbie. Haha. Zheng laughed and grabbed his shoulder. No need to. We won't protect the newbie. Ho ho. Remember to follow our pace. As a newbie without protection, you are a goner if you fall into the sea of bugs. Before Gondo could reply, Xian adjusted his glasses and said. This starship isn't necessarily safe unless it's the one where the female main character is in. You also have to pray that the current date isn't during the second attack by the Federation. The highest rate of fatality is actually on starships. We have the power to fight the bugs, but if the starship gets blasted by plasma bursts, your power won't be able to help you. Understand? Gondo stared at Xian then recalled the movie. After some time, he nodded quietly. Zheng said. Gondo's role is to attack any bugs that come close to us and help Kappa spray down bugs in range. When a large number of bugs surround us, you have to attract them and use the electrical attack. Any questions? No one had questions. Gondo opened his mouth but didn't say anything in the end and just nodded. Just then, they heard the broadcast. Platoon 4 please gather at lobby number 3. Repeat. Platoon 4 please gather at lobby number 3. Squads will be assigned. Landing in Klendathu in 14 hours. They knew the movie had officially started. People began walking near them. The team quickly squeezed out from the crowd together and followed everyone leaving the room. As expected. We are not in the same platoon as the main character. The movie mentioned Juan Rico is a private in Platoon 6. Xian said as they walked. Klendathu is the first invasion in the movie. The planet is the bugs' home world. Due to the number of bugs and their strengths far exceeded the Federation's expectations, over 100,000 people died in the battle. Hope Platoon 4 didn't get wiped in the movie. Don't worry. Zheng said lightly. We have been getting stronger. Just be careful and we won't fail. I won't let anyone die in this movie. We will all go back alive. They followed along with the crowd. Lobby number 3 was near. Starship Troopers was a sci-fi war film depicting a future world. Aside from human and technology, there were the arachnids that evolved their bodies for strength. They could shoot their eggs through space onto other planets. A species that were unknown to humans. Yet, humans mistaken them as a weak species. The arachnids attacked Earth with meteorite and destroyed a city, then followed up with multiple meteorite attacks. Thus, the Federation declared war on the arachnids. In the movie, the humans' first attack was sending a large number of starships to the arachnids' homeworld. However, they underestimated the strength of the arachnids and caused a lot of casualties. Over 100,000 troops were killed. That was the Klendathu invasion, the point in time that Team China entered this world. Zheng looked through the glass windows at space. Stars were twinkling and a yellow planet was not far away. That was the planet they were going to enter, Klendathu. As expected. Their identities were registered within the Federal Armed Services. All were private ranks. Though a senior officer appointed Xian as the squad leader. 3 other troopers were assigned to their squad, making them a regular 10-man squad of Platoon 4. Everything followed smoothly since they didn't have to worry about identity. The team followed the 3 other troopers to find their respective rooms. 14 hours to go before the landing. They could get a good night's sleep after dinner. These 3 troopers became their guides. Once they found the rooms for their squad, Xian sent the 3 troopers away to fetch the battle manual for the site Platoon 4 was responsible for. His position gave him the right to see this manual. I don't know when they will come back, so I will make this brief. Xian looked at the other 6 people and said. The first issue is we entered this world at a time earlier than I imagined and at a place safer than expected. Don't you feel strange? 3 teams entered this movie. The weakest team entered first, followed by the second team, and the third team. We appeared right before the first invasion. There weren't any dangers in the movie before this time unless they appeared in the city hit by the meteorite. But God wouldn't put any team in such a hopeless situation, so I think the other 2 teams are either similar to us in strength. We entered just a few minutes later. Or. Zheng had a bad feeling at this point and asked. What's the other possibility? Xian waved his hand. The other possibility is they entered much earlier than us, then they will have the time to do a lot of things. If they really did, we are at a disadvantage. Kappa asked. Like what? What can put us at a disadvantage? Training martial arts or magic in this world. That's only possible if they have 10 years of time here. Xian shook his head. Not that extreme. They just needed to enter the movie when the Federal Armed Services recruited troops. What if they became high-ranking generals? If we encounter them in the battlefield, they can straight up order the troopers to attack us. Or they can find our location through scans and order bombers to bomb us. Anyway, if the team strengths are similar, we will make peace with the other 2 teams and exchange information. If it is the other possibility, that will be up to whether they can think of what I just said. Lan asked. They couldn't get to high-ranking general so fast, right? I remembered the main character only became a sergeant after many battles. They won't be able to order a large number of troops unless they are at least colonels. Smaller numbers aren't a threat to us. Zheng said before Xian could reply. I get what he said. Why did they have to join the Federal Armed Services during active recruiting? That's because you could choose which field you want to be in. There are people with psychic in this world. But how much weaker is their psychic in comparison to us with enhanced mental capacity stat? If you entered the military intelligence, your psyche scan and soul link can probably help you climb ranks faster than the main character's friend. Xian nodded. Correct. This is one of the points I am concerned about. If the other team discovered our location first, then we might be in special dangers. If they really became a high-ranking general in the military intelligence, they just need to issue an order and place us on the starship where the female main character is. They can also order other starships to open fire if we seized control of the starship. While if we don't run, there's a 90% chance we will die following the plot. Zheng exhaled then sat on the bed. He grabbed a drink from the cabinet and took a gulp. I understand. That means, we can't expose ourselves as players before they do. Correct. However, once the invasion begins and we take out our weapons, we will become the center of attention. Are you suggesting we shouldn't use our weapons but use those harmless firearms from the mobile infantry? Xian nodded. Yes. This is one of our choices. There is another one but that may go against your justice. Xian smiled sarcastically. Zheng was surprised and asked. Against my justice? Let me hear it. Xian sneered at him. The landings consist of groups of 300 troopers. These troopers don't land on the same spot and we can defend against their firearms with the dragon's heart. So we just have to kill everyone around us. Know why I am looking for the battle manual? Because we need to find Platoon 6, where the main character is, then follow the characters who lived through the first bug war. Once we see them, we will put away our weapons in the dimensional bag, then we can come back here in safety. What a sinister plan. Killing 300 troopers, all the bugs on the way, and all those who would see their weapons. Most of the fleets were destroyed during this war and the rest were busy running for their lives. So naturally, no one would notice their abnormality. Furthermore, Lan could block off the other Team Psyche Force users with Psyche Whip. They could tell that Team China was here but wouldn't be able to pinpoint who. Then the team would follow the movie characters back to the starship. Almost perfect. Zheng sipped his drink quietly. He finished the last gulp and gripped his hand. The aluminum can was crushed. Then he said calmly. I understand. Let's do it. Kill the 300 troopers in our group. If Platoon 6 is not that far away, we will kill our way through. Live on. Such a heavy weight within these two words. Xian, do you still remember the conflict we used to have? Can I dirty my hands to stay alive? I can give you the answer now. The three troopers brought back the manual. The map showed that Platoon 4, 5, and 6 were spread out in a triangle. They weren't that far away. If they used the sky sticks during part of the way, it would be easy to reach Platoon 6. After everyone fell asleep, Zheng had Lan connected him to Xian through Soul Link. My answer is I can dirty my hands but not my heart. I can massacre everyone in front of me for the lives of my comrades, for my own life, but if you use anyone from our team as bait, I will beat the shit out of you. Zheng said calmly as he lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Xian replied with a short N. No one knew what he was thinking. He flipped his body to the side and fell asleep. After a while, Lan sighed and fell asleep too. Zheng continued staring at the ceiling. 8 hours of sleep passed by quickly. The broadcast woke the troopers up. After cleaning themselves, the troopers flooded into the cafeteria for breakfast. 3 hours later, the countdown finally began. All the troopers gathered in the lobbies and received their weapons, armors, helmets. The squads then headed to the transportation ships. The 7 people from Team China were among one of these troopers. They and the 3 troopers in their squad were assigned to a transportation ship. The door closed and a lieutenant walked out. He gave everyone a cold stare and said, Remember, kill everything that isn't walking on 2 legs. Kill with all your might. Give your best to stay alive. Yes. Sir. The 3 troopers said. But Zheng and his team were silent. This lieutenant was going to rage, but when he looked at them, a chilling sensation shut down all the words he had. Aside from the girl and a boy, the other 5 people gave off a murderous feeling, a feeling directed at him. Rumbling. The ship trembled as it began to descend toward Klendathu. The ship shook violently. Everyone knew the battle had begun. The lieutenant jumped out as soon as the door opened, followed by the 3 troopers. The others stood there silently. Just like we had planned. Kill all the bugs and humans on the way. If we happen to meet the other team, kill them along. Live on with all we have. We will first clear all the bugs and people nearby, then head toward Platoon 6. The battle begins. Everyone brought out their weapons. Kampa had his huge EMP rifle. Zero's Gauss sniper rifle wasn't as cool looking, but his expressionless face brought the cool factor up. Wang Xia took out many plasma weapons the size of half a fist. He hung them all to his body. Fortunately, the plasma weapons were quite stable that neither high heat nor impact could trigger them. Otherwise, these plasma's weapons would take their lives. Gondo also got his bear robot. He did not hesitate climbing into the cockpit this time. Then he picked up the Gatling cannon Zheng placed on the ground. The robot didn't look too great, but its fingers were well made. It looked dexterous holding the Gatling cannon, then jumped off the ship. Put your dragon's heart necklace on. As soon as you notice its glow dimming, come right to me. I will refill its energy. Be careful of ambushes from beneath. And be careful of the tactical nukes. Kill all the humans, that's not one of us. Zheng said to them and brought out Tiger's soul. The moment this weapon appeared, a layer of red light filled the ship. Everyone here quivered slightly. Then Kappa and Zero exited the ship. The outside was rather dim. The clouds of this planet looked quite thick that it blocked sunlight from reaching the Earth. The color of the sky looked similar to dawn, but the place was loud in contrast. Troopers were coming out of transportation ships continuously. Many of them seemed like new recruits. Some were even excited and in high spirits. There was no sign of worry for this war. It was as though this was a trip or a game. Zheng walked out of the ship and saw these troopers ran past him. The 3 troopers from his squad also ran away. Kappa said by his airs. You call this an army? Just a bunch of mobs. Xian stood behind Zheng and said calmly. Nothing to be surprised about. The people in this world are different from our world. There is only one government in this earth. War hadn't happened for a long time. The army is more like a planetary expedition. That's the cause for the huge casualty in the first invasion. The higher officials in this world are truly idiotic mortals. The rest of the team looked at each other, then laughed dryly. A middle-aged lieutenant noticed the group of 7, especially the bear robot that looked totally out of place. It shouldn't appear in serious battle. So he walked towards them. The lieutenant said in a cold voice. What is your... A red light flashed across following Zheng's hand as soon as he spoke. The lieutenant, who was 3 meters away, moved his hand toward his chest in a confusion. His body began to slide off with this simple touch. Blood spurted out from his lower half and he fell off in 2. Let's begin. Don't show any mercy. If you want to live, then kill every person who sees our weapons. Lan, scan platoon 6 to the north. Zheng gave a shout, then charged toward the 2 troopers who were standing behind the lieutenant in totally shock. The tiger's soul slashed across when he was still 3 meters away and cut the troopers from their chests. Death didn't come immediately. They wailed and struggled on the ground with their upper bodies. Zheng didn't look at the ground. His gazed ahead and said. Zero, over there. Those 2 beside the transportation ship seemed like reporters. I remember the reporters were reporting the event live in the movie. Kill them. Kappa also began shooting at a spot crowded with troopers. He roared and pulled the trigger. Countless tiny bullets shoot through in speed not visible to the eyes. The outermost troopers were torn to pieces without making any noise. The EMP rifle's power almost wiped the group of 50 in an instant. Merely a few survived by hiding in the holes on the ground. Waves of noise came from people around them and bullets were fired from those troopers. The first to get hit was the bear robot that was standing on the outermost. Xian embedded the dragon's heart on the robot and had it powered by the energy reserve. So the barrier from the robot was the second toughest. The translucent barrier blocked all the bullets coming at it. It lifted the Gatling cannon with seeming difficulty. However, it hesitated for some time before turning its head around. Fumofu. Zheng sighed and said. Gondo, fire. I won't recharge your robot again in this movie. Understand? Every bit of energy is precious. If you don't want your energy to deplete and get killed, then raise your weapon and begin the battle. Bang. Zero's rifle also fired. The bullet braked through the air on its way. By the time everyone reacted to it, a half-meter hole opened up on the ship and behind the hole was a splatter of blood and flesh. The Gauss sniper rifle wouldn't even leave behind a corpse at such close distance. Those 2 reporters and their cameras were crushed. The only things left behind were 2 pairs of legs. Gondo also finally pulled the trigger. Zheng noticed a trooper carrying a rocket launcher type weapon on his shoulder. Another trooper inserting a red shell into the launcher. This scene was familiar from the movie. This was the only heavy firearm of the mobile infantry, also an unreasonable display of the Federation's technology. This weapon could destroy an area of several hundred meters with a shot. Gondo was aiming at these 2 troopers attempting to use the tactical nuke. The Gatling cannon was not as powerful as the EMP rifle, but it could still tear human bodies apart within a 1,000-meter range. The 2 troopers were shot flying before they could finish firing. Kappa, Zero, attack all the transportation ships. Don't let any leave our sight. Wangxia, use the plasma weapons. We have to finish the fight in under a minute. Lan, find all the troopers that are hiding. We can't leave any survivors. Also keep an eye on the distance of the bugs. Xian, finish off any troopers that didn't get killed immediately. Zheng shouted, then jumped up using the movement technique. He raised Tiger's soul and slashed at a ship behind him. This ship was just taking off. The light blade from the slash cut the ship in half. It then exploded. The barrier blocked the flare and shrapnel flying at them. 1 minute later. There were no other living organisms on the field. The transportation ships were also sniped by the Gauss rifle and EMP rifle. The EMP rifle reaches beyond 4 kilometers and pierces armored plate within 1 kilometer easily. A few seconds of spray would burst a ship in flames. Zero's attacks were much simpler as he aimed for the cockpit. The Gauss sniper rifle would kill anything within the cockpit. Not a single ship elevated above a 1 kilometer before being downed. 50 points for each transportation ship. Zero picked the rifle back up and said to Zheng. Kappa also said. Right. 50 points each and 1 point for every 10 troopers. Zheng sighed. F***ing God is obviously encouraging us to destroy everything. Whatever. Lan, located platoon 6 yet? Search for a path with less troopers. It will be troublesome if we get recorded by cameras from the reporters. Don't worry about the bugs. We shouldn't have any problem with our weapons. Lan nodded and said with her eyes closed. About 17 kilometers away. But they are retreating toward our direction. A lot of bugs over there with endless surfacing from the ground. The bugs beneath us are also coming us, lots of them. Zheng shouted. Send the image to Wang Xia, Kappa, and me. Gondo protect us. Zero and Xian protect Lan. The image of the scan appeared in Zheng's mind. He could endless bugs that were 2 meter tall and 3 meter in length swarming to the surface near 100 meter away through the tunnels. The surface collapsed before he could notify the others and revealed a hole. Huge bugs swarmed out. These bugs were moving at a speed twice that of normal people. The first bug was already charging at the 7 of them. The EMP rifle roared again. The first bug got shattered and the one directly behind was killed by the piercing bullets though its body was still in whole. Gondo had psychological hindrance killing bugs but not anymore. He fired the Gatling cannon. Its effect wasn't nearly as strong as the EMP rifle. The cannon triggered sparks as they hit the bugs and took a whole second to kill one. Their killings delayed the bugs from coming out for a moment and bodies were piling up in front of them. We underestimated them. No wonder they killed an army of over 100,000 in just several hours. Kappa, continue shooting. Don't let them come close. Wang Xia, we can use 10 plasma grenades. Zheng exhaled then took out the 2 sky sticks. He was planning to proceed according to their plan. They would fly near platoon 6 then find a chance to join the remaining troopers and follow them back to the starship. Just then, Lan said urgently with a frown. I am going to cut off the scan and soul link for a while. They found us but that was a broad scan. They didn't lock onto our psyche forces. Wait a bit. I will mask off their scan with psyche whip. I need 30 seconds. Zheng immediately put down the sky sticks and stood next to Lan. His eyes defocused as he unlocked the first stage. This was a time where they were vulnerable to sneak attacks. They couldn't tell when a bug ambushes them from beneath. The only thing he could do was rely on his sense for dangers. That was when Zheng noticed Qian wasn't standing near the group. He ran over to the dead troopers and was picking up red shells. He recognized these shells were one of their goals in this movie, the tactical nukes. They were the size of a fist but had the power of a tier D sci-fi weapon. Qian suddenly threw away the shells. 2 gauze pistols slipped into his hands. Zheng then felt the ground shaking. He didn't get the time to shout when the place Qian was standing on collapsed, exposing several holes and the bugs coming out of them. Zheng's heart clenched tight. A bug was only 3 meters away from Qian and those huge claws were approaching him. He placed a pistol over his shoulder and fired at the bug behind. The gauze pistol was at least more powerful than the Gatling cannon. The bullets pierced the bug's head with ease. Then the 2 pistols began whirling around in crazy speed. No matter where the bugs came up, the pistols would get them instantly. Qian stood in the center calmly and nothing could get near 3 meters of him. Dead bugs were piling up in dozens around. Lan said. Done. Qian had been shooting for 10 seconds. He was still intact but Zheng could tell his movements were not as smooth and he was slowing down. This gunning technique consumed too much stamina. As soon as Lan reconnected Zheng to the scan, he charged over and shouted. Lan, connect me with Qian's mind. He jumped down toward the hole while at the same time began a countdown for Qian to stop. Stop. Zheng said through his mind. He landed behind Qian and slashed several bugs approaching in halves. Qian exited his state and continued shooting only at the bugs in front. Lan, get Wang Xia in the link. Qian, stop shooting when I say so. I will take you out of this hole. Nothing will come out of staying here. The number of bugs coming out are endless. We will eventually get covered with bug corpses. He also said to Wang Xia. Set a plasma time bomb to 4 seconds and throw it over when I say so. Stop. Throw. Zheng gave a shout as he activated both his chi and blood energy. He entered explosion in under a second. The world seemingly turned into slow motion, even with the bug's speed. He grabbed Qian by the shoulders then charged toward the edge of the hole. This hole was about 4 meters deep. Zheng jumped then stepped on the edge to climb out. The timed bomb landed on the bottom of the hole at the same time. 4 red shells were also left on in the hole. Zheng was running toward Lan with the movement technique as fast as he could. Lan couldn't even react when he got her and Qian to the ground. A several meter high plasma ball appeared followed by multiple explosions and a mushroom cloud about 100 meters from them. The cloud then covered everyone. A layer of dirt covered everyone following the nuclear explosion. Kappa and the bear robot were standing a bit further away. The other 5 people lay on the ground. They also noticed Kappa's body looked a little larger and hairier. Werewolf transformation? Zheng patted the dirt off his body and climbed up. The hole from behind had become much larger and deeper. The dirt covering them was blasted off from this place. Not a single bug appeared from the hole again. Zheng dug out the 2 sky sticks also covered in dirt then threw one to Qian. He brought out the baskets from the dimensional bag and said. Talk later. Turn on the sky stick. The EMP rifle's barrel was changing in color, signifying it was overheating. Xian connected the basket to the sky stick without a word and stepped on it. At the same time, lights glowed from beyond the sky like a meteor shower. Blue laser balls flew from one end to the other. Every one of them looked so big and magnificent. Zheng and Xian looked at each other. They knew most of the fleet were destroyed in this battle. The invasion was a complete failure. The movie didn't show it, but the 100,000 casualty was just the estimation for the mobile infantry. Those who died from the fleet increased this number to 300,000. Everyone get on the baskets. Gondo and Kampa get on one. The rest get on the other. Zheng shouted and lifted the sky stick. Wang Xia took out a timed bomb, set it up, then threw it at Kampa and Gondo's direction. The blue light soared the area as plasma spheres emitted from the bomb. All the bugs that came in touch were instantly vaporized and those nearby became ignited. The bugs in this area backed off as if a layer of acid spread over the land. Kampa and Gondo seized the change to run into the basket under Xian. Then he lifted off. Zheng followed closely and said to Lan, who was beneath, "Connect my mind to Xian. And keep an eye on any troopers nearby. If you find them, then send a location to 0. Lan gave an affirming response. Zheng said to Xian, "Are the other two teams looking for us? I am afraid we might encounter the other teams if we head to the main character now. Everyone knows it will be safest staying next to the main character. If the other teams are also looking for cover there and teamed up, wouldn't we be walking right into a trap? I actually wouldn't worry as much if that's the case." Xian replied calmly. Because that would imply they hadn't become high-ranking generals nor obtained any political power. Based on combat strength, we have over a 70% chance of winning. Your explosion and destruction techniques weren't counted in our rating and we are still the strongest team here. We have a high chance of winning if you use these techniques. What we need to be worried is when they don't appear next to the main character. That would mean they obtained influence in this world, just like what you did in Resident Evil Apocalypse. You used the Umbrella Corporation but your methods were too foolish. We can leave this topic for later. The reason God allowed some teams to enter in advance was to let the weaker teams obtain enough influence to balance the strength of the teams. So you would rather pray that they are next to the main character. Then we will be able to force them into exchanging information or wipe them. Zheng exhaled. Understand. If that's the case, I think we should rescue some troopers before approaching Platoon 6 and only use weapons from the Federation. We can merge with the troopers to not appear out of place. So the other teams can't find us. What do you think? Xian was surprised for a moment then thought for a bit. My mistake that I didn't consider this. Human nature is full of curiosity. If they see us came over to the site assigned for Platoon 6, they will be curious as to how we got there. We will merge with a squad on the premise that we are safe just like you said. Wait until the rescue ships come, then we will save a squad with normal weapons. Zheng came out of the Soul Link conversation and said to Lan. Take notice of any remaining troopers from Platoon 6 and the rescue ships that may come at any time. Lan's voice came from below. Zheng, a lot of flying organisms are approaching us at high speed. They will reach here in just a minute. Wait, let me send the image over. Zheng paused for a bit as the scan appeared in his mind. There were several hundred hopper bugs. Their speed was even faster than the sky stick. Based on the scan, these bugs were about 3 meters long and their wings opened up to 6 meters. They looked like enlarged dragonflies with sharp legs that could seemingly shred humans to pieces. The hideous look would send chills to everyone. Lan had already sent the images to both Kampa and Gondo, which shocked the two of them. Kampa immediately turned the EMP rifle at that direction and began firing without even getting a clear look. Gondo saw Kampa firing and followed suit. Zero set up the Gauss sniper rifle and took aim. Soon, the hundreds of hopper bugs came into vision. These bugs moved so fast and their reaction speed was equally fast. 10 bugs in the front got shredded, then the rest immediately spread to both sides. The bugs were suddenly closing in on the sky sticks from all sides like a net. What to do? The jet system can speed away from the bugs, but it won't work for Xian and the other two. Descend. We will descend together. Lan, scan the ground to see if there are any holes. Hurry. Send the locations to Wang Xia and me. Wang Xia, set up the bombs so that they explode as soon as they touch the ground. We need to collapse the ground and blast the holes. We are relying on you. Hurry. Sweat covered Zheng's forehead. If these hopper bugs caught up to them, he was the only one that could escape. They underestimated the bugs. The terrifying number would swarm them in a sea of bugs. Only 40 seconds left. Zheng was screaming from within. Xian saw Zheng approaching the ground and followed suit. Lan didn't say anything as time passed by. She stood there quietly with her eyes closed. Then her body moved a bit. Wang Xia activated the tomb and threw it toward the ground. The sky sticks were 20 meters above the ground at this time. The bomb exploded as soon as it touched the ground. The blue plasma ripped apart the ground and revealed a hole underneath. A few bugs inside were burned to ashes. There were several more holes connected to this one, but Zheng had no time to consider. He charged right into the hole with the sky stick and shouted for them to hold on tight. Xian, Kampa, and Gondo followed closely. Right after the two sky sticks got in, the hopper bugs leaped down. The two sides were less than 100 meters apart. Kampa and Gondo were quick to react in such dire situations. They aimed their guns at the entrance simultaneously and blasted the few hoppers near it. Then they heard the rocks cracked. Zheng collapsed the wall behind with a slash so the bugs coming out of the connected holes couldn't get to them. Kappa and Gondo looked at each other, then came to a temporary cooperation. Kappa continued shooting ahead while Gondo aimed at the top of the entrance. Multiple shots from the Gatling cannon broke off a large rock and it fell down to block off the entrance. The sound of hopper bugs tackling the entrance could still be heard at their end. The group finally got to breathe heavily despite the dirt and dust in this cave. The cave was so dark that they couldn't even see their fingers. However, they felt much safer in comparison to the situation from before. Anything but a whole sky of hoppers. The concept of safety didn't exist in the world of movies. They were still so weak after obtaining their powers. Zheng was the only one who could have escaped with his explosion or destruction if stuck in that situation. Everyone was powerless against the number and strength of these bugs. All they could do was take a few more bugs with them. We underestimated the bugs. They are not crops waiting for harvest. The movie worlds won't become easy just because we are stronger. God wouldn't make a theme park to give out free points. Zheng sighed. They could hear the sound of digging through the rocks, especially from the entrance area. This sound gripped their hearts again. Zheng could see the bugs within the connected hole and the hopper bugs outside through lens scan. But there was more. A huge bug was digging itself up from under the ground. It would reach them in 5 minutes. Dangers are relative. You grew stronger, so God threw you in more dangerous and more rewarding worlds, just like this movie. There may be worlds in the future such as Star Wars where a human's strength is almost negligible. You can get killed in an instant no matter how strong you are. Xian was still looking so calm. He readied his pistols in his arms. Zheng took a deep breath then said to everyone. A huge bug is coming our way from underground. It should be a tanker bug judging by its size and shape. It will break apart this cave with any hit, so we have to clear the hopper bugs outside within 5 minutes. Xian, Gondo, and I will begin the attack now. Kappa, defend the entrance. Spray to your heart's content as soon as you see any bugs come near. Don't be afraid of hitting us. We have the dragon's heart necklace. Wangxia set up bombs on the ground. With a timer of 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Add a few mines for additional power. Gondo was shocked and began crying in Fumofu. They were confused until Len translated in a low voice. Why do I have to go out for the attack? The Gatling cannon is so weak and isn't near as powerful as the EMP rifle in killing bugs. Why do I have to attack too? That's just pushing me to die. Zheng gave him a cold stare and said. I am not going to say more than this. The robot's defensive system isn't weak. The Gundanium alloy armor doesn't break so easily. You also have a AoE attack by luring bugs to you. Isn't this the best crowd battle ability here? We are a team. Everyone should be prepared to sacrifice himself. If you don't have this realization, I don't mind killing you right here. Zheng raised Tiger's soul. Gondo immediately aimed the Gatling cannon at the people behind him. Time froze at this frame as they fell into silence until Xian said without a hint of emotion. Gondo, I placed 3 plasma bombs inside the robot. If you get further than 50 kilometers away from me, the bomb will explode. If my heart stops beating for 30 seconds, the bomb will explode. The choice is yours. The bear robot was shaking. It lowered the Gatling cannon and muttered Fumofu in a low voice. The situation was urgent and Zheng didn't look at him again. Set the timer to 4 minutes. Xian, get up in the air and attack with your gun kata. Remember to stay in the unlock mode. Gondo, lure a big swarm of hopper bugs for the electrical attack. I will use explosion. We must finish these bugs within 4 minutes. Zheng slashed the rocks blocking the entrance with Tiger's soul. After a few slashes, he broke the rocks with a kick. These shattered rocks flew out and knocked down several hopper bugs. Then the crimson light blade slashed them in halves. Xian charged out right after Zheng. The sky stick flew upward, instantly attracting dozens of hopper bugs to chase after him. Xian had entered the unlock mode. The gauze pistols were firing at every direction. But more and more bugs were crowding up on him. His gun kata was quite powerful. It covered every direction that he might get attacked. Dead bugs were dropping non-stop. The sky stick was also more agile than the hopper bugs under his control in the unlock mode, so nothing even got near 10 meters of him. Gondo was the second to charge out. The bear robot didn't have the best style and it cried in Fumofu. If it wasn't the Gatling cannon in its hands, one would have mistaken it for a comedic character. Gondo received a warm welcome just like Zheng and Xian. Countless bugs flew at the robot. Those knife-like wings that could cut humans in half hit the robot several times. The clanking sounds on the robot were non-stop and its fur had torn apart. However, just like Zheng had said, the robot's armor was made of Gundanium alloy. Its toughness was extremely high. Almost all the wings that hit it got shattered, leaving only a faint trace of white on the armor. A few more tries later, the hopper bugs stopped attacking it with their wings and switched to their legs. Gondo was prepared to die when he charged out. However, seeing that the robot's armor was so tough, he dropped his worry. He began firing the Gatling cannon, but before long, a hopper bug slashed the Gatling cannon with its wings. Clank. The Gatling cannon broke in half. At the same time, another hopper bug slashed its foot and knocked the robot down. The fall dazed Gondo for an instant. Before he could do anything, several bugs lifted the robot. More and more bugs were swarming up on it and began pulling the robot in midair. The Gundanium alloy armor was tough, but the robot's joints were not so much. Gondo could hear the tearing sound coming from the robot's joints. If the robot got torn apart, he would be exposed to these hopper bugs, a human without any abilities. The only thing that awaited him was death. Gondo cried with his heart. The fall had almost swapped the location of his arms and legs in the cockpit. His hands were so far away from the control panel. His eyes slowly went out of focus, then he grabbed the joystick with his legs. The robot's arms pushed forward and pushed away the bugs on the robot's head. Gondo flipped himself around in the cockpit and his hands reached for both the blue and red buttons. Blue light shone from the robot's chest. SZZ. The nearest hopper bug was burned into a charcoal. The bear robot swung its hands and crushed this charcoal. At the same time, the blue light spread out rapidly and enveloped the robot in a 6-meter area. The light only lasted for a second, but it burned over 20 bugs. The robot moved its arms and broke all the charcoals. Once the bugs surrounding the robot were gone, it started to fall. Dozens of bugs immediately flew in to fill the space. The robot was only falling from a 10-meter height. As it almost touches the ground, the metallic humps on its back finally opened up. Blue electricity spurted out and pushed it forward right before it touched the ground. Hopper bugs that were charging at it hit the ground instead. And the robot finally made it out of danger temporarily. My boat is still numb from the electrical attack. This state will persist for 2 seconds. Needs 5 seconds to recharge after the electrical attack. Which means I can't dodge with full capacity for 2 seconds and can't attack for 5 seconds. If I get caught, the robot's joints won't be able to sustain 5 seconds of pulls. Gondo felt the world had changed. It was a sensation indescribable with words. Endless information streamed into his head: what actions to take, how to move his hands, what steps should the robot take, its balance, speed, and strength. The speed under the electrical jets that he couldn't take control of during training felt so easy now. His control gave the robot such fine and agile movements while the jets pushed its speed to an extreme. The robot glided short distances with every jump. The hopper bugs couldn't catch up to it in a short period of time. Just running isn't going to do it. Among people who still have power, can't count on Zheng. Xian is flying around. Is he in the same mental state? Kappa is the only one left. But how am I going to tell him the plan? I recall Lan said she will monitor every member's mental state. Lan. Connect me with Kappa's mind. Gondo was thinking intensely on how to survive. If he got caught again, he could only use the electrical attack, but that also meant he couldn't dodge at full capacity for 2 seconds and 5 more seconds before the next attack. This was his fatal weakness, so he didn't even dare to stop. The only thing he could think of was have someone clear the bugs behind him. As he looked over, Zheng's whole person was blurry. He couldn't see Zheng clearly due to his movement speed. Zheng also attracted and killed the most hopper bugs. A thick layer of dead bugs piled on the ground. Every swing of Tiger's soul brought down several more. In comparison to Zheng's inhumane movements and attacks, Xian's gunning style was like magic. Continuous change of the pistol's direction that killed 1 to 2 bugs every time, and the smooth movements of the sky stick could only be described with perfection. However, the perfect attacks of these two people meant that they couldn't give Gondo any help. All he could do was keep on running. The hopper bugs flew faster than the robot. He pulled away their distance several times with sharp changes in direction using his insane control. Even then, the bugs were still slowly closing in on him. The nearest one only 5 meters away. Gondo's heart was slowly being filled with coldness, despair, and anger. This is Kappa. What is it? The voice sounded in his mind. This voice almost gave him a shock, but also brought out his desire to live. He immediately shouted within his mind. Help me, Kappa. I will line the bugs up by the cave entrance. Help me. If this amount of bugs catch up to me, then I will. Understood. There's still some time before the rifle overheats. Lure them over. I will let you take control of the firing. Kappa paused for a moment, then said. Gondo exhaled deeply. His hand movements were barely visible to the naked eyes. The bear robot was running back and forth in abnormal movements and dragged all the hopper bugs to a straight line. The robot suddenly jumped and rolled on the ground. At the same time, Gondo shouted. Fire! A flare shot out from the cave entrance along with countless needle bullets. The hopper bug nearest to Gondo was torn to pieces. The bugs behind continued pushing forward due to momentum. Dead bugs started piling right behind the robot. Great. Zheng was still in explosion. But the energy rings made him feel less stressful. He began talking to Lan over Soul Link. Great newbie. He very similar to me. Someone that can break through with ease in the direst situations. And becoming a part of the team isn't just a verbal agreement. The team has to be good to him and he has to give for the team. Lan, how many bugs left? Lan paused for a moment. 137 hopper bugs left. Based on our speed, it should take about a minute. But your body. Zheng was still in explosion. The tiger soul was powerful, but the dragon's heart was almost useless against close combat organisms. The bugs could attack his body. He couldn't neglect the bug's speed even in explosion. His body was filled with wounds at this point. The worst cut was a large one on his right chest, deep enough to see his bone. A hopper bug cut it with its wings. Fortunately, his recovery rate was incredible. These wounds had stopped bleeding and cicatrized. So none of these wounds were critical. No problem. My body can still handle it. However, I can't sustain explosion for another minute. Zheng slashed a bug near him, then clenched his teeth and exited explosion. The bugs rapidly closed in on him due to their speed. 2 more cuts appeared on his body in just a moment. Lan screamed from inside the cave. She almost charged out if it wasn't for Kappa blocking the entrance. So she cried out by the entrance. Zheng wasn't looking to kill himself. He brought out the bracelet of Anubis the moment he exited the unlocked mode. Blood energy started pouring into the bracelet. The army of Anubis rose from the ground and surrounded him with their 3-meter-tall bodies as these bugs charged at him. One of the warriors slashed at the bugs with its sword. After Zheng depleted his blood energy, he poured chi into Tiger's soul. The crimson light blade grew longer and longer. Its color also turning into a deep red. He waited for 100 hopper bugs to dive down, then jumped up with the movement technique. He stepped on the shoulder of a warrior. With both hands holding onto Tiger's soul, he slashed his sword in a circular motion. He was also draining chi from the ring into Tiger's soul. The attack range at this time was about 20 meters. The invisible part of the light blade slashed across numerous bugs. Broken pieces of their bodies rained from midair. After most of these bugs were killed, Zheng fell from the warrior's shoulder and lay on the ground exhausted. The army of Anubis guarded him from all directions.